Tamil standards, attractive women definition is so different. It's based on skin alone. What if she had cleared the entrance with this kind of mindset? The way men are respected is not the same way as women are respected. And when I was asking for a toilet, they were like, no, this is the only toilet we've been having for years. For someone to like each other, color is not a factor at all. I used to wipe the toilet with a tissue paper. See, your eyes are beautiful, you look so beautiful. It took 27 years for me to realize that. Never in Tamil Nadu I had an opportunity to realize that. I was born in Perambalur. In my birth certificate, it is Perambalur that is registered. And when I was born, I was the first child. On my mother's side, I was the first grandchild. And on my father's side, I was not the first one, but then they were all awaiting son, grandson. Instead, I was a granddaughter, and I was not received very well. So looks like some of the extended family members started crying in the hospital, saying that a girl child is born, and this had an impact on my parents' mind. They were also pretty much young. So in their minds, they didn't want the impact of caste, the impact of class, and also gender, because they thought that this daughter should not feel the pressure of the society. So my dad wanted to move to a place that is neither related to his side nor related to mom's side. They were very much committed to not to go back into the village setup, because in their minds it is the villages of India where caste is concentrated, and there is much impact of class, and also there is a lot of sexism and misogyny. So they were pretty much committed to not to expose us to that kind of setup. Appa, because he grew up with the support of the teachers, and he grew up in welfare hostels, he spent most of his holidays in reading stuff. He was into the Dravidian politics of those days. He had an opportunity to be associated with Thandai Periyar in those days. As a student, he used to tell us that he used to sit under the lap of Thandai Periyar. My dad's mom's marriage was self-respect marriage, what we call as Suya Maryadai Thirumanam, without a Brahmin priest. And my dad didn't pay dowry. My dad did pay dowry to get my mom in. So it was the other way around of what happens in the normal society. Obviously, I had marks. I came first in matriculation in my 10th standard, and 12th standard I had enough marks to enter medicine, and I got selected in Tanjore Medical College. That's one of the best medical colleges those days. One of my uncles was in Tanjore, and his family was settled there. My aunt is a distant cousin of mine, so she was pretty much because those were the days of Navarasu issue, if you remember, in 1996. I was 97 batch. So they were all concerned about leaving me in a hostel. They were concerned about the amount of ragging that's going to happen, and they were concerned about women safety and issues like that. So she was pretty much concerned, and then so the whole family accompanied me inside the medical college first day, and they were all with me when my first ragging happened. So I was pretty much protected by the whole family. And when I entered into college, for the first time I came to know that where I stand in terms of Tamil beauty standards. Because even in ragging, the men will be, my college seniors will be like, who asked you to come in the front? Go back. We'll be sent to the back. The attractive women, because for Tamil standards, attractive women definition is so different. It's based on skin alone. Skin and skin and skin alone. For the first time, a man came to me and told me that, see, your eyes are beautiful, you look so beautiful, was in Delhi. I was 27 by then. So I don't think a Tamil man ever, the Tamil society ever saw a girl with dark skin as beautiful. And my parents always told us, whenever we used to raise this issue with our parents, they always told us this, that you should be happy that you're not you're not acknowledged for your beauty. Because that is not what we want. We want to be educated, we want to be empowered, and your empowerment doesn't come from beauty. So we were okay with that. But when I went to Delhi, men were swarming at some stage. I could see that, they were coming around, and then they used to say, see, your eyes look so beautiful, your hair is beautiful, your skin is beautiful. And then for the first time I realized they were men from Punjab and Haryana, and for the first time I realized, okay, fine, for someone to like each other, color is not a factor at all. It took 27 years for me to realize that. Never in Tamil Nadu I had an opportunity to realize that. And yes, in London I have always seen that, it's all beyond color, right? Admiration is beyond color. And it feels good when you are admired for your beauty as well, right? For your looks as well, the way you dress, the way you present yourself, it feels good. So this happened in Delhi and London, but it never happened in Tamil Nadu till date, I can tell you that. There used to be this rural quota those days, so 25% of my batchmates were from rural background. So what I could understand from day one, I can say, is that they were very sharp. Their grasping ability of the science was far more better than people like us who studied, who did our schooling in English. We've always known this, right? People who do their basic education in their mother tongue, they always have better foundation. The basics are pretty much good. We've always known this, and this is something I've observed from my day one of my medical school. The nutrition that we receive as children, it has a big impact in our intellect, in our intellectual growth, in our psychological growth. This is something I always used to think when there were issues around NEET, and when Anita, when she suicided, there used to be discussions in my undergraduate WhatsApp group. I eventually came out of it because I thought the discussions running there weren't helpful for my intellectual ability and my psychological capacity. But we used to have those discussions, and my friends who are women, who are doctors, some of them are first generation doctors, they used to be critically evaluating her suicide. They used to say that, see, this girl has suicided just because she couldn't clear the entrance. What if she had cleared the entrance with this kind of mindset? She would not have undergone the whole course. This is something they used to come up with. But I used to argue with them, see, with your educated parents, if you encounter failure, because I've had failures even before that in my school days, your parents are going to support you at a different level. And the kind of nutrition that you have received as a child, as you grew up, itself is going to bring in a different level of physical strength and mental strength for you. Your neurotransmitter levels are going to be different with the environment that you grew in. So the way you encounter failure will be much more easier than someone who encounters failure. Like, for example, take Anita. In her case, she didn't have a mom. She grew up with brothers, supported by brothers who were just few years elder to her. So what kind of psychological help, what kind of nutrition she would have received? So you cannot place her in the same level playing field as you place your own child. The failures may be same, but then the emotional ability or the intellectual ability will be very different, because for your child, they're also having the passive intellectual transfer from you. You would have read thousands of self-help books, and that you're going to transfer that to your child as she grows up. So you cannot place Anita with you when it comes to life. So we have not created a level playing field despite all that the government does. I was always attracted to general medicine. One of the reasons was my clinical acumen was good. That is very much required for general medicine. But also that in my mind, I had already decided I won't take up obs-gynae, I won't take up ophthalmology, dermatology, pediatrics, because in one way or the other, women always land up in these specialities. this is the sexism in medicine which doesn't come out at all. Even I don't think most of the women doctors themselves realize why they are choosing obs gynecology compared to general medicine or general surgery. Even people who had very good surgical skills, they used to only take obs gynecology. They were not taking general surgery those days. These days things are changing. So in my mind I thought, no, I'm not going to take any of the non-clinical specialties or dermatology, pediatrics, obs gynae. In fact, I was criticized heavily by the faculty who was sitting in the counseling session because that year, strangely, general medical seats all got over early. And I had obs gynae and pediatrics in MMC. They were diploma, but that was not a concern. I was very clear. I told them, no, I'm not taking pediatrics and obs gynae, and they were like, no, this is an MMC. Are you crazy? Have you discussed this with your parents? That was a question the faculty asked me. And then I came out and I told my father. So we came off, and after a month's call, I got my waiting list moved, and I got into Government Mohan Kumaramangalam Medical College in Salem. From that time on, I was a loner. So, because super specialty is not something, women take up MD general medicine, but then super specialty is not something women were taking up frequently. That too, even if they take up, they'll only take up within the they'll take up their seat within the state. So they were not moving out. I wanted to do in an institute of national importance, and there are only 6-7 institutes of national importance. So to enter those kind of institutes, you need to get some work experience. So I moved to Delhi. So first I was working in GB Pant. GB Pant is the super speciality branch of Maulana Azad Medical College. So there used to be men around me, 18-20 men, and I used to be the only women. There was just one toilet, and when I was asking for a toilet, they were like, no, this is the only toilet we've been having for years. Why do you want another toilet? They used to just make fun of me. You have come all the way from Tamil Nadu. You want to work with men. You're entering into a field where there's going to be men alone. It's a male dominant medical field, medical speciality. But why do you want a separate toilet? So I used to think about it. The thing is, men are men anyways. Even if they are doctors, they don't have toilet etiquettes. So the toilet seat is always going to be soiled. And every single time that I enter the toilet for my own use, I used to wipe the toilet with the tissue papers. Most of the times the tissue papers won't be there. I used to buy tissue bundles with me. I used to carry them in my bags. I used to wipe them off, and then I will use the toilet seat for myself. And after I use, I have to make sure that it's clean enough for the next person to use. And every single time, 3 times in a day, I used to do this. And if you actually think about it, my colleagues who didn't choose to come into medicine and got married as early as their high school, or my colleagues who entered medicine but just did MBBS, didn't aspire into broad specialty or into super specialty like me, they wouldn't be doing this toilet cleaning at their home, because they just have one man, their husband, in their homes. Even if the husband is not toilet trained enough, Indian women can somehow train their husbands for the toilets. I mean, they can train them to keep the toilets clean. Whereas what I was doing is I was cleaning the soiled toilet seats of 18 men wherever I worked. Till the time I worked in London, I was doing this. Till last month, I have been doing this. So these are the difficulties which people do not know at all. They just see us and then they think that, okay, she's an expert doctor. She had educated parents. She's from a privileged background. They just assume that. But yes, I was from a reasonably privileged background, comparatively privileged background. But then I was somewhere into middle class, fine. But the small things that you do, the small sacrifices that you do on a day-to-day life is way more than what a woman who chooses to be a housewife or who's pushed into that housewife role does. So that is one side of the story which many of them do not know. I'm pretty sure pilots should be having the same problem. The army officers, the women army officers should be having the same problem. I'm pretty much sure about these things. For a woman to reach a male's outcome, reach the performance of a man, you will have to work at least 10 times more, because you are also working against the prejudice and biases in everyone else's mind. You enter an outpatient department. The way men are respected is not the same way as the women doctors are respected. They'll just barge in and, Papa, inga doctor yaru? So that's how they'll ask you, because they won't even realize that a doctor can be a woman, especially an expert. A doctor who's a super specialist can be a woman. They can't realize that because they've never seen that. That's the main thing, because there were less than 10 candidates in the whole lot of 108 or 110 candidates who have done gastroenterology in Vellore in the last 35 years. In the previous 35 years, this was in 2013, I'm saying. So generally in people's mind it is not there. Even when I went for the interview in CMC Vellore, the job is going to be very difficult here. Here we don't have any, the way CMC works is such that the duties are not time limited for doctors. So they mentioned that, and then they said, the guys are going to work hard. Will you be able to match up the performance of men? When they asked me this, I told them, so I was working in Medanta before I came to CMC. So I was telling them, see, I was Medanta is a private corporate hospital. My job ends by 5 to 5:30. I'm supposed to hand over to the next person, the night registrar who comes in. But I used to do all the left out jobs. I used to sit and go through, whatever I thought was enhancing my learning. I used to sit and do that after that, and I used to leave the hospital by 11 o'clock. In fact, the period when I stayed in Delhi was the Nirbhaya incident period, and everyone used to be afraid, and so everyone used to discourage me from family here, and also my colleagues, my senior colleagues, consultants over there. They used to discourage me going so late in the night. But this was never in my mind. It's not that I wanted to go late in the night, but then this was never in my mind. Because for me, I was so focused, I was so unidirectional. I wanted to learn everything that I could learn in terms of patient care, in terms of gastroenterology, whatever I could learn in terms of procedures, in terms of going through the lab values and making an assessment and reading, sitting and reading there. So time was never in my mind at all. So I was telling this to the CMC interview panel, but in my mind, it became like a conviction that never again this interview panel is going to ask this question to other females who are coming as my juniors. My performance will be to that level that it will be multifold better than men around me. So this was a conviction. I know this is not good. This kind of competitiveness is not good for a person as a human being, for my human body and my human mind. I know this is not good. As a doctor, I know that. But this is where I'm placed in history. This is where I'm placed in evolution. So this is where I'm placed in society. So there's such a bias, such a gender bias. I'm at a point where I have to work at least 10 times more than my colleagues and prove to the seniors or prove to the patients or prove to the nursing colleagues that I'm much more better than them. For what? I don't know for what. Many times I've asked myself, why can't you just relax? Why can't you just go to sleep? Why can't you just go to a movie? But then the only thing that comes to my mind is the next woman should not face the same difficulties that I face, the same criticisms that I face. This is what I used to tell myself. And I should mention this, in London, they all repeatedly gave me a good feedback saying that you are someone who stands with the patients all the time. I'll come up with a story with that dimension which my bosses would never know if I don't tell them. I was reading Periyar and Ambedkar as I grew up, so I knew the patient rights, and I knew as a doctor you have to be with the patients. The way I got educated in feminism aids me, because feminism is essentially humanism, right? We need to understand the intersectional component in feminism. Intersectional feminism is where we take class, color, caste, religion, geography, educational status, everything in culture, cultural variations, everything into account in addition to gender. So, because everything else has an important impact on gender. A white Western woman cannot be placed at the same level as a Middle Eastern or a woman coming from Saudi Arabia, the problems are different. The problems are not the same, so the solutions are also going to be different, they're not the same. Now I've moved to a point where in my London workplace, I used to have a female colleague who was a young mother who was tending to an 8-month-old baby. I would say she was my inspiration. She was so quick in delivering jobs. She was such an expert in time management and in everything. So we used to have such a good time as colleagues. And then our consultants, there are times where few of our consultants used to mention that to the male colleagues, are you afraid to be around these two high functioning women? So this used to come at least thrice or 4 times, 5 times we've heard this, and it was really good to listen to that, though it's not a good comment from my male colleagues' perspective, but I empathize with them. But it was very good for me because all the while, so it's been almost 17 years I'm into this, more than 17 years I'm into this field. So all the while it was about, the questions were always about whether you can match up a male colleague. And now they've started asking the question to the male colleagues, are you finding it difficult to match up your female colleagues? So that's where I've moved into. So I'm very happy about this, and I think this is how the future is going to be for women in medicine.